So can regular exercise help you reduce the amount of depression and anxiety medication that you take? In this video, you're gonna find out. Well, the short answer is, surprisingly, yes, for some people, sometimes. There have been many studies over the last 40 years that show that regular exercise, and it's really a matter of what you want to do, but most of it has been on endurance type of exercising, that they find that many people, if they're taking medication for depression, anxiety, that type of thing, they can reduce it by 50%. Now, in some cases, some people can reduce it entirely. In some cases, it has no effect. But my experience has been, I've been doing this in my profession for 25 years. You know what the biggest trouble is? I'm gonna tell you. It's not the knowledge, it's not the knowing, it's the doing. And what do I mean by that? You could tell patients all day long till you're blue in the face all the benefits that they'll receive, how they'll reduce their medication, that type of thing. Let me change down here. They already know it, they're aware. The hard part is getting them to do it, to buy into the idea of doing it 7 days a week. Like brushing your teeth. You want healthy teeth? Take care of them every single day. You want a healthy mind? Take care of it every day. Physical exercise has so many benefits. I'm not going to reiterate them here in this video because you probably already know what they are. The hard part is getting patients to buy into it. So there's some tricks of the trade, and I'm going to share them with you. And they don't always work for me, but I found this tends to work. The first is, if you have a patient that comes in and is on, 3 different medications for depression, anxiety, you never mention it. You just don't make it an issue. You have to get to know the person. You have to give it time. One of the advantages of being a chiropractor is you are not dealing with people a lot of times on an acute sense, that you learn to deal with their chronic problems, and so you see them repetitively and you get to know them as a human. And once they trust you and they respect you, then you can have a sit-down chat, we'll call it a heart-to-heart with them. That usually, and this is no slam on medicine, but usually most medical doctors simply never get that bond with the person, and so they're never able to have a sit-down chat. Now there is an opposing view, and I'll tell you what it is, and it does work. But my experience has been to actually wait and get to know the person so that they trust you and they know that you have their best interests at heart. And then you could sit down and figure out, how do you get them to do it? And how you get them to do it is 2 ways. Either explain to them to do something fun, because people will always do things that are fun. And the second, if that doesn't work, tell them, well, look, if it's not going to be fun, at least spend as little time doing it, and you try to convince people to do it. So it sounds funny, but I'll never tell anyone to go for a 10-minute walk, because that seems daunting. I'll tell them, look, get out of your house, brush your teeth, leave your house for 5 minutes, set a timer on your phone or whatever, and go 5 minutes that way, and then just come home. And saying it that way, surprisingly, people don't mind it as much. It's kind of a weird mind trick, Jedi mind trick. Nonetheless, listen, let's be frank. A lot of people just don't like exercising. So if you tell someone I want you to do yoga for an hour, or I want you to go into a gym for 2 hours. They're just not going to do it. The compliance is zero. But if you tell people to do things like walk, go out in the sun for 10 minutes a day, you're not going to get burned, you know, that type of thing. Better compliance. Now, having said that, there is a totally different way, and I believe this is where medicine has the answer. And that is that when you walk into a room and you have that status symbol, that authoritarian symbol called the white coat, and there's a pecking order in that room. And I understand some doctors have a God complex. That's part of the deal of being a doctor, I guess. But nonetheless, sometimes a medical doctor will have the advantage in that they are not bonding with you. They'll just tell you till you like it is. And they'll say, look, you gotta do this exercise stuff to try to reduce your medication. And very often, you know, it's interesting, some people resonate better with that authoritative person rather than someone that bonds with them. So nothing wrong with that. Now the disadvantage is, and this has just been my experience, is that most medical doctors, they just don't have the time. And quite frankly, if they themselves do not exercise, then you're in deep trouble, because they're naturally going to have a bias and not think it works. Likewise, I have actually sent some patients to say, hey, you know, you need to see someone, talk it out therapy, and they're just given medications. And you know, you think about what a psychiatrist or psychologist does all day. They sit all day. Chances are they exercise people? And that's what I've discovered, is this. Over the years, the recommendations are very often biased based upon the doctor's own experiences. And that's why, I mean, I personally like to exercise, so therefore, I'm gonna try to get people to do it. But if you have a doctor who, and my primary care doctor is obese. That's the funny part. I don't think he's gonna give me any advice that is gonna help me in terms of exercise, you know what I mean? So if your doctor is not an exercise person, there's gonna be a bias against that. But really what it boils down to, 90% of the time, is not what a doctor can do for you, but the self-motivation that you yourself have to come to grips with, and to do your own soul searching and realize that, man, I got to get out of the house. You know, very few people walk out into their balcony or go somewhere and go for a walk with their face in the sun and say to themselves, this sucks. Who does that? Well, there are people that do that. If you try it, see what happens. You have nothing to lose except what the research shows is that you might be able to eliminate or reduce your medication.